How you doing, buddy? This is your old friend, Johnny Manzo. Listen, I want you to come to my house today as soon as possible. I got something I'd like you to work on for me. My address, well, I'm sure you didn't forget it. 254 Timonium Avenue.
So this guy, he finds my phone, but not my gun.
He's looking for a wire. If you didn't have a piece on you, I'd be dealing with the wrong guy.
I just got hit with a really
A case.
Yeah.
What do you want, Manzo?
I want you to find this fucking scumbag drug dealer and bring him to me.
This motherfucker's been scouting out my family.
That's how he works. That's how he's always worked. You know this.
Take this number. Enzo called it 5 times the day he died. This might be our guy. Don't disappoint me.
Off the streets? For what? A couple of months maybe? Not even. That bastard took my baby's life with that poison.
I represent Mr. Manzo.
I already told Manzo.
Shut the fuck up and listen to the man.
Really? What happened?
Okay.
So I take it. Isn't that one of the advantages of being your own boss?
This one is different.
Once Mr. Manzo gives the word, your family's mine.
Okay, listen. I got a case I'm going to talk with your mom about. I need you to be careful, and I need you to be aware of your surroundings at all times, okay?
I want you out of the city for now.
Okay, so I guess I'll run it past Connor.
No, you don't run it past Connor. You tell Connor.
Dad, I know how to handle myself. Yeah, okay. But you know what? You really don't know a thing about how it can be out here. Okay? Out here, you need to be street smart.
Welcome to another episode of Chat with Staxx. I'm your host, Bill-Staxx, and today I got Anthony Welch. How you doing, man?
Good. How are you, Bill?
I'm great. Thank you for joining me. I appreciate you taking the time for me.
Thanks for having me on. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
No problem.
I want to thank Liz
you want
too. Liz introduced us. And I wanted to, say hi to her. She's great. And she's a big help, and she's been a big support too. So, and I thank her for introducing me to you. So thank you.
Yeah. Thank you, Liz. She's an awesome person. Great support. So do you want to tell the people where you were born and raised, and we'll just get into your story?
Yeah, I was born in Manhattan. Mount Sinai Hospital in Manhattan, and raised in Brooklyn, mostly in Brooklyn. Canarsie, Bensonhurst, Dyker Heights, Bay Ridge, that whole area. I went to high school in Brooklyn, FDR High School in Bensonhurst. And then I moved out to LA for 5 years in 1995. Moved back to New York. Lived upstate in Woodstock, New York for about 10 years. And then I came back to the city. And right now I'm in Staten Island, New York. So that's where I am right now.
When you were younger, did you have aspirations to be in the movies and to be a writer? And is that what you wanted to do when you were younger?
When I was younger, I didn't know what I wanted to do. And I had aspirations of being a baseball player when I was really young, and, probably a lot of other things. But then my last year of high school, I took part in what they call the SING production, where all the classes, the freshman, sophomore, and senior classes they take on a play, and they do some play work. And I was in that production, and I did kind of well, and I enjoyed it, actually. So then I went to college, and when I got to college, I figured I'd take a couple of drama classes and see if I really wanted to pursue it further, because I liked it in high school, and I thought maybe this could be something I could do. I enjoyed it. And then when I got involved with that, basically, but in college, the drama courses and classes in colleges, most of them are for electives. They're not really taken by serious acting students. They're taken because I need to take something. Let me take this. You know what I mean? So when I felt that, I really wanted to even try it further, I auditioned. I interviewed. I interviewed at the Lee Strasberg Theater Institute in Manhattan, and that's where I really got serious, about acting and about the craft and about the business and all that. Because that's an intense institution for learning acting and drama and film and TV. So
How before
and I
you
studied
got
there for
into
about
all
5
that,
years.
before you got all into that, was your family supportive
Mm-hmm.
for you to do that?
Not really. I mean, you know, they were supportive in terms of wanting to do something that I really enjoyed. But I mean, like everybody else knows, you know, that's something that, you know, well, if you want to do that, you better get a college degree so you can fall back on something, you know.
Yeah,
This,
it's
yeah,
like kind of saying you wanted to
it's
be
one of
a
those,
rock
no one
star,
really,
kind
you know,
of,
pushes you.
right? It's kind of like
Exactly.
someone
Like, yeah, all
saying,
right, you
yeah,
want to entertain yourself with this, yeah, go ahead. Yeah, have a pipe dream, go ahead, knock yourself out, but make sure you have something you can really do when this doesn't pan out. So, you know, it's one of those things.
yeah,
And
yeah,
you know, and I did. I mean, I majored in economics in college, and I actually during college, my colleges, I worked after college in my classes during my classes on Wall Street because I was in Staten Island. I went to Wagner College, Staten Island, and I took the ferry over, and the ferry lands you right in the Wall Street area. All right, and I worked for a company called Bear Stearns as a messenger. Bear Stearns is gone now. As a messenger, just because it had to be light after school type work and all that. And
yeah,
you know, I got a taste of that world there, and I realized really I didn't want to do it. You know, I mean, it was all about money, all about it was intense pressure to make the money, to make more money every year, every year, every year. I got onto the stock exchange floor as a messenger, and I saw that lifestyle, and it was like to each his own, but it was too intense for me, believe me.
yeah,
You know, so I did other things. I did other side gigs, you know, while I was pursuing acting, you know, and you know, and then I eventually I met what would become my wife, who we're now divorced, but it became my wife, and we got married. We moved out to L.A. for 5 years, 1990 to 1995. We moved back for personal family reasons. He's older and grown now, but when he was growing up, though, you know, I decided I couldn't do both. You know, pursue this full time acting and
yeah,
support, you know, my son and the family in the right way. So I had to give up one. I wasn't giving up, you know, my son. So I gave up the acting world for about 16, 17 years. Now I didn't leave it totally. I mean, I kept in touch with all my friends who were still in
yeah,
the business, who were still pursuing it regularly. I kept in touch with the executives and the casting people, and I kept myself in the game in terms of knowing what was going on, because I knew I wanted to come back into the business eventually. So you know, I kept in touch with as many people as I could, and kept myself apprised of the industry as best I could. You know, and so that was this way. When I did come back to it, it wasn't as much of a shock. I wasn't totally out of it, and you know, and I kept myself busy with acting and acting classes during that time too. So I tried to stay as sharp as I could, you know, so that when I did come back, you know, I wasn't starting from scratch.
yeah.
So that's why I have somewhat of a big gap on my resume for acting. That's the reason. But now I'm back, and I've created and written this series, Street Smart, about the opioid crisis. We won one award. We were nominated for 3 awards. We were nominated for Best Action Suspense. I got a personal nomination for Outstanding Writing, which was a great honor. And then we won the Best Pilot award at the NYC Web Fest. Smart was you know, the cast and crew was great. They were all very dedicated, and they all put their hearts and souls into it. The you know, the cast, the actors, the crew. Gotham Trinity Productions is my crew. You know, and they all did a phenomenal job. We have Joe D'Onofrio in this. You've seen him. You know, a lot of people know him from Goodfellas and A Bronx Tale. We have John
Yeah.
Imperioli, Joanna Pickering. And like I said, all the actors, all the crew, they did a great job with it. And we were nominated, like I said, for we were nominated for 3 awards. We won one, Best Pilot, and that's a great honor. And we're getting a lot of support. And it's a really important topic. And, you know, right now we're focusing on getting the series off the ground. And it's important because there are so many misconceptions about the opioid epidemic and the addict in general. You know, a lot of stigma attached to it. A lot of people think that only a certain type of person can get addicted, and only a certain type of person would sink that low, and only a type of person would get involved in stuff like this. And it's just not the case. It's not true. Now, a lot of the stigma is going away as more awareness is becoming, is becoming prevalent here
Yeah.
in society. But there's still a lot of people that look at addicts in a very certain way, and not a good way. And even some of the relatives of the addicts and the brothers, sisters, mothers, fathers, they're looked at as, how did you let this happen? How did you not know this was happening? They're holding them responsible as well.
You can't
And,
stop it, things like that. Yeah.
right. Yeah, you can stop anytime you want. I don't know what the problem is, but it's been proven that there is a part of the brain that does change a little bit if you're on an opioid for too long, and not even a very long time, but even like maybe 30 days, 60 days, which a lot of doctors prescribe that for, where you can become addicted. And no matter who you are, you can be a CEO, you can be a white collar executive, you can be anybody. And if you take enough of this for a certain amount of time, you can become addicted. People think, nah, it never happened to me. Well, that's not true. I mean, it's been proven not to be true. So this is what we're trying to get across. And there's been a lot of support even in the industry, because there are a lot of people in the industry, show business industry, that either have had this problem themselves or they know people who have had the problem. And so, the social relevance of it is hitting home with a lot of people too. And I know a lot of people personally,
Yeah.
friends and some members who've lost people to this. And, and a lot of them, they just, whatever the case may be, they may have experimented a little bit, but they didn't really think it was any big deal at the time. They maybe have taken a regular pill that could have relaxed them, but since it was laced with fentanyl that they didn't even know about, boom, it was all over before they knew it. So, we're trying to show that this is not just your blue collar, low end town, poor towns that can get addicted like this. It can affect anybody. It has affected anybody across the socioeconomic lines. It's in the suburbs, in rich homes, medium income homes. It goes across the board. So that's what we're trying to do. And the cast and crew did a great job on this. I can't say enough about them. They really did.
Yeah, I'm in recovery myself, and I know the struggle. Like, there's a lot of different ways for people out there to get clean, but it's definitely possible. There's step groups, there's faith-based groups, there's medication you can take. There's all different ways to do it. So, I mean, I don't knock people for the way they do it. I've been I've been in recovery for 3 years, and I'm going strong. I have a sponsor. I'm really focused on my future. And a lot of people look down at people who were addicted.
That's what I mean. Right. That's what I mean. There's a stigma attached to that. And they think it's only a certain type of person with a certain educational level or a certain income level. And that's just not really true. I mean, I can go to neighborhoods in my area here that have $300,000, $500,000, $600,000 homes. They're driving $60,000, $70,000 cars. And there is this possible. And a lot of them are functioning addicts too. I mean, you don't even know it. They function. They take this medication every day. They get a little buzz every day, whatever they need just to stay afloat. But they're actually addicts too. And they think because they go to a doctor and get it prescribed by a doctor that they're not necessarily addicts. But these are people that unfortunately kid themselves, because they are, and there's a lot of functioning addicts that are working with us and next to us every day that we don't even know about. So
what made you want to put together? What made you want to put together the whole idea on the opioid epidemic? What was the premise behind that?
Yeah, well, I mean, it's been ongoing since 2016, at least 2017, where it really became a big issue again. It blew up. And I've known some people on a personal level. I've known some people through friends that have really been affected by it and have really lost family members or friends and things like that. And really what it was is that really what propelled me to do this is the stigma behind it, because I knew some of these people were really good, upstanding people before they got addicted. Okay. And through no fault of their own, to a degree, they had legitimate pain, legitimate issues, legitimate needs for this medication. And once they started taking it more and more and more, they became addicted. And the thing is that, after a while, it's, like I said, the brain chemicals do change. This is, if you believe in science, and this is on file and on record, it changes. You can become addicted without even really realizing it. And then when you try to come off the medication, the pain sometimes is not from the original pain you had, it's from the withdrawal from
Yeah.
coming off the medication. Your body doesn't realize the difference. It still thinks it needs this, and you start to find ways to get it. And then when you get legitimate doctors, because there are some illegitimate doctors that like to just prescribe it like candy, when you get some legitimate doctors that take you off of that,
And they
and
cut
your body
you
still
off.
needs it. Now you got
Yeah.
to now you got to find other Now you got to find other sources, and that's where people really get into trouble. Because here comes the heroin, here comes the other sources, and here we go. So, so that's what really propelled me to do this, is that everybody thought or a lot of people I knew and came across thought it was easy to get off. It's your own fault. I don't know what you're doing and how, and then the relative, how could you let this happen? What are you doing about it? And meanwhile, it's not that easy, and it's not that simple and cut and dried. So I wanted to show that. And the reason I'm trying to do it as a series is because I commend everybody, every filmmaker and content creator who has addressed this, but I feel there's not enough that you can do in a 2-hour movie to really encompass the whole situation. So I try to bring it through in a series. In the series, I have more time to build. I have more time to explore the characters and touch on all the bases. The pharmaceutical companies, the doctors, the pharmacists,
the kids that are missing their parents.
Right, exactly. The single parents who have to struggle with their kids and their own issues. The white collar, the blue collar, the upper class, the lower class, the middle class. I want to touch on all of that because it does affect all of it. It's all good and well to tell one story about one type of demographic, but I wanted to try to encompass all of it and show the whole picture. And maybe it's a little ambitious on my part, but I'm going to take a shot at it. We'll see what happens.
Hey, it looks great from what I've seen so far. It's really good.
Well,
I mean, you're winning awards already. Yeah.
So. Well, this is the first festival we've actually entered, and I'm trying to really now get to a point where we can actually get distribution pretty much right away. Because also, since it's a topic that's relevant right now, time is of the essence a little bit too. Although I have to tell you, it seemed like the crisis was waning a little bit, not going away, but waning pre-COVID. And once COVID came about, it now seemed to have shot up again because of the isolation. People who were in rehab couldn't get to rehab. There were some people that were, still using, but they were isolated by themselves at home, and they had no one to call 911 for them. They had no one to give them the knock on. They had no one. I mean, I read a story where someone who was isolating themselves and they were still hooked, they would set up their cell phone with 911 and have their thumb right on and ready to go while they were taking the needle. So in case they started to feel like they hit the 911, people know how to get to them. So this is what, so the COVID epidemic, pandemic has really brought this back up to almost a crisis level again in the opioid world. So,
and then it makes the doctors,
it's not going away anytime soon.
The doctors make it harder for you to get those kind of pills, so people are running to the street to buy street drugs.
Exactly. Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
And they're laced. A lot of them are laced with the, I mean, if it was that drug alone, that'd be one thing. But a lot of them, they don't even know. They're so desperate to just get their hands on any of it. And if it's laced with fentanyl, that's it.
I heard of dealers putting it in cocaine, marijuana, fentanyl, Xanax, and all that. Because they think it'll bring you back. Like, I don't.
Right. Oh, yeah. Like the push and pull. Like, I don't know. Well, they're experimenting, but they're not taking it. So they're okay. But it's the poor people who are taking it that, I don't know if and there are addicts when they're in rehab and they're doing well and they start to clean their system. They go back. Just the first time they go back, it's such a shock to their system that it takes them out sometimes, and that's another issue. So this is what's going on through the whole COVID pandemic, and so now it's a topic again that not that it never needed to be addressed, but it needs to be addressed again because it's become worse, I think, with the pandemic now. So, but that's what started me off on that, and the cast and crew and Gotham Trinity Productions and everybody in the cast has been great. And I want to thank NYC Web Fest for giving us the opportunity, to screen it there. And I thank them and their jury for the award that they gave us. We were
had to be a great feeling to get that after 16 years of being out of it, and then you go back like boom, like it's a blessing.
It was. Well, thank you. It was, and and I enjoy the writing of it too, and I enjoy the research. I've learned a lot about this through research. And I've done a lot more that you haven't even seen yet. I mean, this is only the tip of the iceberg with the pilot. I can't get a whole lot of what is still yet to come in the pilot, obviously.
Oh, you
but,
can tell me
there's
off the air, man. You can tell
yeah, no,
you
yeah, I
can
will.
tell
Yeah,
me
well,
off
I have 2 seasons written. It's ready to go. So if there's anybody out there that wants to, back this, we're ready to go. And so hopefully that'll happen in 2022. But yeah,
I have a
and
feeling it's gonna all come together for you.
I hope so. I hope so. And I hope it does. And appreciate that. So and I commend you for what you were doing and what you are doing with your, not only with the show, but what you've done with your rehab and whatever you've needed
Thank
to do.
you.
And no, really, I commend anybody like that.
Yeah, I
It's a
have a
great
toy
thing. So,
drive going for the homeless kids in my area.
good. Oh, good.
Because if I don't go do a toy drive for them, there's no one else that's gonna do it.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah. Right. No, that's
I'm
especially this
gonna
time of
do
year.
my best. Yeah, I'm gonna do
Good.
my best. It's pretty sad when because I volunteer at a homeless outreach center.
Right.
It's pretty sad when I'm sitting looking out the window. I see two grown-ups pull up. They got a car full of kids,
Yeah.
and they're all dirty and they have nowhere to go, and the kids are just sitting in the back seat looking miserable. I'm just looking like that's no way to live. And if I can help them, I will.
Yep. And and the children of people that are addicted too. We talk about that. I mean, we address that as well. They sometimes their parents. I mean, the parents are absent, or they don't come back at all. They have an OD. I haven't seen in one of the later episodes where 2 young children they come running to their mother who comes home from work, and she has to run out and go get something, and she never comes back. So that's, I mean, it's just it's horrible, and it's really. The children suffer the most, obviously, and they're impacted by this, and it's just a terrible situation. So we're trying to bring as much awareness to this whole thing as possible, but again, focusing on the human side of it in terms of not everybody can control it, and
put a face to it.
It affects all. Yeah, it affects all lives. I mean, it affects the people that are treating them. It affects the the EMTs that have to show up, and the police and the other resources in the cities. No question about it. But again, if you need to approach it with the human side and the human understanding, because it's basically, it's easy for people to sit back and judge and say that would never happen to me. But I've known people where they were perfectly fine before they started.
I have a 16-year-old daughter, and I tried to lead by example today, because I don't want to steer her in the wrong direction. And I figure that me putting myself on here and bringing awareness to all the stuff that's going on, it'll show her that my dad's really doing it. And
That's right. That's right. Absolutely. Oh yeah. I mean, like I said, it's easy for some people to sit back and judge others, but until they have a need for a certain type of medication that they have to have, and that's where a lot of it does start. I mean, everybody thinks it's just you just one day wake up and you walk up on a corner and you go to a shooting gallery and that's how it starts. And that's not how it starts. No, but a lot of people have this. If you talk to a lot of people, especially older, you'd be surprised what they think. So, so that's why I'm trying to bring that side of it, to light here, and hopefully it will give more compassion to the addict and some more understanding, actually, because it's needed. It's definitely. I mean, I don't know if you're aware of the. They have this situation in New York now where they have centers that are open for addicts to go and shoot safely or administer the drug safely while they have professionals standing by, so that they don't OD.
That doesn't make sense to me. That just doesn't make sense.
That's very controversial. Well, that's the controversial situation in New York City right now, and you might want to read up on that because I think you'd find that interesting. But yeah,
well, if you go down to Kensington, you can see them. They're shooting up right as you're driving down the road, all down the block. It's like it's crazy.
Yeah. So that's I mean, there's two extremes, and obviously, I don't. In many instances, with many things, extremes are no good. So we need to come back a little bit to center, and that maybe that's very extreme. But again, it's just for me. Again, my whole impetus was to show all sides of it and all economic levels that it affects, not just one specific stereotypical type, and the stigma that's attached. I've had many people on my Street Smart page. I have a Street Smart page on Facebook, and they private message me with mothers and fathers and whatever and sisters, and thank you for addressing this. The stigma is really hard for us. We get looked at a certain way because our child, OD'd, or we get looked at like, how could you let this happen? Or you're not a good parent because you let this happen. And a lot of them have no control over it. I mean, well, they've done as much as they could, or they had interventions and it didn't work. So, but I'm trying to bring that into the mix so everybody who watches this can understand it and see it. Especially the ones that don't understand it. So
yeah, you're doing great stuff, man. I definitely commendable.
Oh, well, thank you. I
So
appreciate it. And yeah,
now I want to talk about
Go ahead.
when you got your role in The Irishman.
Oh, The Irishman. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I want to talk about that.
Well, I'll tell you. The thing is that, I, as an actor, you try to get what they call principal roles, and those are speaking roles. And I've been in Screen Actors Guild since 1985, but then because I left, I didn't have that big gap. I didn't do anything with it. But I've been in the Screen Actors Guild with a principal role, speaking role, since 1985. And I've done speaking roles a number of times. And then when I first started to come back into it, after I was out for it for like 16, 17 years, I wasn't getting much. I had to get back into the fold with getting a manager, getting an agent, and all that. And I wanted to be in this as a principal actor with the speaking role, but obviously that didn't happen. So I said, well, then forget it. I'm not gonna bother, because when you have an agent, you really don't want to try to go out for background work. They don't like that.
You can do that on your own, right?
Yeah, exactly.
You can do background work on your own.
Right. So, but I got a call from the background casting director asking me if I was available for The Irishman. Now, I had really turned down all those roles for many, many years in background because I don't want to do it anymore. There has to be a point where you have to stop and get to the next level. So, and I was at that level, so I didn't want to go backwards. In the acting world, they consider that going backwards, obviously. So, but anyway, I said, where else am I going to get a chance to be around these people, these type of actors? I mean, this could have been Martin Scorsese's last mob film, for all I know. And from what he's said and from what I've heard, this might be his last mob film. Not his last film, but his last mob film. And he's never worked with Al Pacino. So I said, even if I can get on the set and near them, that would be a great thing for me, because as an actor, I like
network.
To yeah, but you can network with other actors, but I just like to watch the process. When I first got into the Screen Actors Guild, it was mostly, right in the beginning, background work. But I always used to watch, what was going on, who was doing what, and I look, and that's why I used to get brought up front as a background person, because they would notice that, and they would notice I wasn't starstruck, and I didn't bother the actors and all that. And back then, you couldn't take a selfie anyway. There was no such thing. We didn't have cell phones back then, so forget that. But if now they try to take selfies on the set and all that, so that's another issue. But I always did that. So anyway, long story short, I said, well, you know what? All right, my agent will probably kill me. Hopefully he won't find out, because a lot of times you can do background work and get mixed up in the back, all the way in the back, and in the crowd, and they won't even see you. I'm the 14th head in the back over there.
A little bit up front there on this one.
I'm a little bit up front right there. Yeah. So I got killed. That kind of backfired on me. But, I had two scenes in that, and the scene before that was the fight scene with the Tony Provenzano character, Stephen Graham, and Pacino in the commissary where he smacks the tray away. So, but I wasn't that prominent there. I ran over, held back some prisoners, and that was no big deal. So I figured, okay, I got away with it the first day. What you see here was the second day, and I thought I was going to get away with it again. And then one of the ADs comes up and he says, you're going to walk Jimmy out. Now we know Jimmy is Jimmy Hoffa, and we know Jimmy Hoffa is Pacino. So I figured, well, all right, maybe they'll just do a quick establishing shot of the three of us and then cut away to him. She'll be all tight, and you won't even see us. Obviously, that didn't happen either. So, all right. So, I mean, look, it was a great experience, and I had a great time with it. And I do post it a lot because it's a great moment for me. That was actually featured in the last Academy Awards, too, when he was nominated for Best Supporting Actor, Pacino. During the clips of all the supporting, they played that quickly with a lot of other scenes in the Irish, but they played that for about 2 seconds, maybe. But
I'm going to get the clip and I'm going to integrate it into this video. So
okay, yeah, all right. It was fun though. It was a fun experience, and and I had met Pacino several times before when I studied at Strasberg, and I was able to hang around the actor's studio. But this was like years and years and years ago. So but when I saw him there that day, I mentioned to him that we studied at Strasberg. I knew one of his other teachers, Charlie Lawton, and we started going back and forth in between takes and all that. And it was a fun day. It was very cold day. That was December, and it was that part of the prison. It's an active prison that they use for TV and film shoots only. And I guess there was no heat on that day. It was very cold.
It's an
And we were
active prison, so there's prisoners there.
yeah. One side
Wow.
has active, and you had to have an actual pass to keep you separated. Yeah, it's a Queens detention facility. They do a lot of films that they've done. The Undoing there. They do a lot of TV shows there where they use prisons and things like that. So this was an active prison, but this wing was, like I said, closed off and shut off. And obviously the heat wasn't working. It was a very cold December day, but
And all
but it was
those
a lot of fun.
all the actors that were prisoners, those weren't prisoners though, right?
Oh, the other actors in no. This is
Yeah.
all. These are all. No, these are all actors.
Yeah,
Cast by
yeah.
actor, background. We're all background. Yeah, and it was a fun experience. It was a fun day. He's a great guy. He was very fun. He kept on saying he had to be more energetic because I think at the time, this was shot in 2017. And I think he was like 78 years old, but he had to play Jimmy Hoffa. He's supposed to be Jimmy Hoffa, I think, in his early 50s, maybe. So he had to hold himself a certain way, and he had to walk with a certain amount of energy and all that. So he had to keep on doing it he had to keep reminding himself of it. So he was cute. He was like revving himself up and, reminding himself he has to be Hoffa and he has to be younger. So that was a great experience. And, and I enjoyed it. I mean, even though I didn't want to be that prominent, really, to tell you the truth, because, but I wasn't going to turn it down either. So whatever happened, and that's it. And I'm fine with it. So, but I mean, the thing is that when I was doing,
What's your agent mad when you seen it? When your agent seen it,
he didn't really. Well, let's put it. He's not my agent anymore. I have a new agent now, so who knows? But no, the thing is when I was doing promotional work for Street Smart all along up to that point. I've done other press and other podcasts. They kept on saying, we're going to talk about his role in The Irishman and Street Smart, his role in The Irishman. I want to say, what role? Because when you say role, you really mean principal in speaking. So, and I don't want people in the industry thinking that I think this is going to, it's a role. It was a background role, but it was featured, but it was a role. But
some people take stuff like that and it makes their head go crazy, right? And they're like, "Oh, I'm a big movie star."
Well, I guess so if you don't know the industry, but I don't mean to sound uppity, but I know the industry, and I know that the background work has never gotten most people. I don't want to burst that bubble, but it doesn't really get them anywhere for the most part. That's why you have to get to the next level by getting an agent and really going after principal roles. I mean, this was a good experience, and I really enjoyed it, and I won't deny it. But I knew where it was not going to get me, obviously, and that was fine. Although I had hoped to get a principal role when I first heard about the casting, that didn't happen. But so anyway, but it was fun. It was fun. I enjoyed it. So yeah.
If I wanted to be an actor, if I wanted to get into acting, what would you suggest that my path be? What would be a path for someone out there that wants to be an actor?
I believe in training. I believe heavily in training. I mean, I don't believe that there's a natural. Even if you can do something naturally, the way you have to do it if you're in a play on stage, or even if you have to on a film set, you might have to do it. Usually you have to do it more than once. There's never just one take. So if you get an emotion, let's say, all right, that's really good. Now you might have to do it again because maybe the lighting was off or the audio was off, or now we got to do it again, reverse it so we can talk with the other actor, or whatever the case may be. You have to be able to repeat that. You have to know how to get to that. And that's where sometimes they're not trained enough to know how to do that. So training is always important. I always, and you don't have to train for years and years and years, but you can't just train for 3 or 6 months and think you got to be a really great actor. You got to invest in training yourself and preparing yourself. And then, you need to get the headshots. You need to get the headshots and resume, and maybe while you're taking classes, you have to network, and you have to get out there and see if there's, you need to get enough work to get on a reel. That's why a lot of beginning actors will do things for nothing just to get the tape, to get a reel, so they can put a demo reel together, and they get a resume together with a headshot, and then they try to go get an agent or a manager. And that's your next step, obviously, And if you're going to do background work, you really don't want to do it for very long, because
do people get paid for the background work? People get paid for background work.
They do. Yeah, they do. I mean, they get less for non-union, and if you're in the union, you get more. You get more up front. And if you're in the union, you also get additional perks, like if there's overtime, time and a half, what they would used to call wet pay. You know, if you got wet smoke pay, if they use the smoke machine or whatever the case may be. So there were additional perks, meal penalties and things like that you get in the union that you don't get when you're non-union. But everybody, if it's a legitimate, production, you get paid. Yeah, you get paid.
Yeah.
So I don't know what the non-union rates are, but yeah, they do. I mean, but sometimes it depends, and with the union they have to keep a certain amount of union members. They have to cast them first, even in background, before they bring in a non-union. So it all depends. But I would do that. I would say you have to get training. Try to get some experience under your belt in terms of, if you want to be a film actor, definitely film. Try to get a clip of your work, put a reel together, resume together, and then see if you can start with a manager. Maybe actually for beginning actors, I think managers are easier sometimes to attain than outright agents. Usually, sometimes in my experience in the past, managers have helped actors get agents. Because managers will usually push a little bit more. Usually market, depending on who it is, market a little bit more for the actor. Where the agent just, I'll submit you, you get an audition, I'll let you know. If not, I move on, and that's it. That's in my experience. But everybody has a different experience, so it depends on who you talk to, obviously. But
see, all this stuff is new to me, so I'm like really intrigued into the whole acting.
And you want to. Yeah, well, you want to ask a lot of other people too, because everybody has different experiences on their way to where they were going, where they are right now, and so that's my experience. I'm sure other people will have similar, and others will have different. But that's what I would suggest. Are you thinking about it?
Yeah, I'm thinking about it. I'm really thinking about it.
You should. We have a good voice. You have definitely that's a good speaking voice. It's a start.
Thank you.
And I think you have a good look, and but I would definitely invest in some classes. Definitely, no matter who it is, because no matter how natural we think we are. Like I said, when you get to a certain level and you need to do 7, 8, 9, 10 takes.
Yeah. You have to cry on demand and.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you might have to, and it may be more than once that you have to do it, because you could do a perfect take, and it could be a technical screw up, and they have to do it again.
Yeah.
Even though you did it, and then now can you do it again like you did it in take 1? Can you do it the same way in take 7? Or maybe you want to change it up in take 7, because that's another thing. When you're doing film, it's an editor's world and a director's world, so you want to give them a couple of different choices, unless they're telling you it's perfect, leave it as it is, and you keep on doing it that way. But that requires a lot of concentration and a break. There are actors that in the very beginning, I know they have a hard time memorizing lines. So it's all they can do to memorize the line. And while they're trying to memorize the line, because you're not just memorizing your line, you're memorizing the other actors, at least last cue line. And then while they're going through all that, they lose all emotion. And then there are actors that, while they're trying to get all this emotion and build up this emotion, but while they're doing that, they can't memorize a line. So you have to learn how to, juggle both of that. And you know what I mean? And it takes training. It takes training. Not just
and it doesn't like I was talking to Liz, and she was telling me it doesn't matter if you don't feel good. It doesn't matter if something's going bad in your life. You have to work, and you have to be there.
That's where the show must go on comes from.
Yes,
I can tell you, I was doing an off Broadway play many years ago, and I had 103 fever. And I had to go on that night, and it was a comedy. And I had to be jolly and festive and you can have the most horrible day in the world, and especially if you're in theater, or if you're going to the set that night, and you've got to be a different person. You've got to do it. You've got to put it aside, concentrate on your work, and then when you let it go, and you come off stage or come off the set, boom, maybe you're back in that world. But that's where the show must go on, unless you really have an issue where they're going to let you not do something. That's a different story. But otherwise, if you're expected to be there and you're expected to be on, you got to be there and you got to be on. And you have to know how to do that too. You have to know how to separate your day, your personal day, from the work you're supposed to do. And that takes concentration. That takes a certain amount of training, also. So that's why I think when people say, I can do that, that's no big deal. It's easy. I can relate to that story. It's a story about the streets. I grew up in the streets, so I can do it, right? Yeah, okay. Sure. Yeah. And then, of course, the technical aspects when you're on a set, you have to hit a mark, what they call a mark, and I used to see very beginning actors when they're trying to hit a mark walking across the room, and when right before they get to their mark, they go like this, and then they go back, so they know how to hit the mark. Yeah, right. Yeah, you can't do that.
You can't do that.
I mean, it's a basic. Let me count my steps. Let me space out my steps, let me space up. That's also while you're doing that, while you're memorizing your lines, while you're trying to stay in frame. It's all this kind of stuff. So, when anybody tells me I can do it, who needs training is overrated. Yeah, okay, good luck. Yeah, good luck. When you get fired from your first job because you're not well trained, and I've known actors early on that had that happen too, come back to me and talk to me about, training is not important.
Yeah.
Let's see what happens. But yeah, but
A lot
it is,
of
the show must go on, definitely.
Some people, they say, "Oh, I can do that," and they say, "I got experience with that," and then they get there and they're like, "Oh, I don't know what to do."
Right, they freeze. Right, exactly.
Yeah.
They freeze. Exactly. Right,
Mhm.
because it hits like now everybody's on, everybody's watching you. You have all these crew people around you. You have the
Yeah.
camera operator, you have the boom operator, you have the director, you have the script person, you have and the makeup people on the sides and everything, and your other actors, and all of a sudden it's like, what am I supposed to say? What was my line? So again, it's a matter of preparing before you go out.
Mhm.
Concentrating. It's constant. It's a mindset. It really is, and and you have to know how to get there. I mean, it's not expected that you would know that right off the bat. No one's born on that. No one's born like that. But there is training involved, and I can't stress that enough. I think it's important. And I unless you're an actor that gets now cast for doing the same thing over and over and over, and there's nothing wrong with that either. That's a living. It's typecasting, and they hire you based on what they know you can do and you've done before. That's okay too. But even with that, you still have to, there's always different circumstances. The film set is never the same, no matter how many film sets you've been on. It's a different crew, they're different people. It's a different feel, a different vibe from set to set to set. So even if you think you've been doing it for 25 years and you know what it's going to be like, well, you might know more than the beginner, obviously, but it can still change. The vibe can change, the other actor can change, the energy can change. You just don't know. So
Yeah, I want to
it's a
be
mindset.
involved with all that. I can't wait to be involved with stuff
good. You
like
should.
that.
Well, I mean, there's a lot of good beginning classes, for TV and film training,
Yeah.
where they teach you the acting part of it as well as the technical aspects of how to work on the film set for the camera, while
Yeah.
also acting and doing so that you can combine them both. I mean, we had that at Lee Strasberg too, but there's now New York Film Academy. There's a lot of others. So and they have good programs.
How big of a
Recommend.
change? How big of a change have you noticed since COVID came in? Has it been with COVID being there with the movies and all that? Like, how big of a change is it since before and after COVID?
There were COVID protocols, safety protocols. Obviously, that's changed. I mean, when it first happened, it from what I understand and from what I've read and heard, it pushed back a lot of productions in the very beginning of the pandemic. Obviously they halted production, and then it took them a while to put for the unions, especially to put safety COVID safety protocols in place and all that. And it changed from what I understand. You can even watch some of it. It changed. If you watch some of the shows that came on that filmed during COVID or right after COVID, when they started to go back, you can see a lot of it hurt the background actors a lot because they would hire less background. They wanted less crowded scenes, in rooms and clubs, because all of those actors had to be tested, before and it cost money. So they wanted to bring down cost on that. So they only hired the essential principal actors, plus maybe if they had
Everyone's
to hire
wearing a
background
mask
actors.
till right before, and then they pull them off, and then
Right, exactly. Which is ridiculous. You're in a separate compartment, offset. They call you to set. You have your mask on, and you got to go to work. All right, you take it off. You do what you got to do. Cut. You put it back on. You go back out, and it's like it. Yeah, I mean, I see. For that, I don't. To me, that was a little bit dope. It's not like you don't. It's not like you only had the virus when you had the mask on. When you took the mask off, you didn't have the virus. So if you were contagious, you were contagious. If you weren't, you weren't. So if you were checked when you went on the set, whatever. But they wanted to err on the side of safety, and that's fine. That's fine. But it definitely put a cringe, in production. And some are still backed up. I think some productions are still backed up. Even
and they're going about things different in a different ways.
Oh, definitely, yeah, absolutely. I mean, with intimate scenes, and the number of people that they're allowing in certain spaces. In LA, I know friends in LA where they have different, on the lots. They have different zones where certain people have to have the vaccination and they have to still take testing, and others don't. And it's a whole crazy thing out there. But here, it's definitely it's a problem. But hopefully, slowly, if we can get past it, I don't know if we can, they will open up more and do more. But that remains to be seen. So I don't know. But it's definitely a big change. It's hurt a lot of productions and a lot of
Definitely.
actors. Yeah. Even going into a room, even casting. I've talked about the casting where, there was always what they call self-tape auditions before the
Yeah.
pandemic. But since the pandemic, it's like that number's skyrocketed, and that's causing a problem for a lot of actors too, because you had to have self-tape auditions and you had to have a reader, but who was going to bring a person into their home to read with them? For tape at that point. So how do you? I mean, then you have to buy a piece of equipment to read the lines. It reads back to you, and it really made a challenging industry even more challenging. Unfortunately. So we'll see what happens and where it goes in 2022.
Well, hopefully it
remains to
all
be seen.
calms down and we can get on with our lives.
I hope
right?
so. Yes, I hope
Yeah.
so, because I got to tell you, we were all ready to go with Street Smart in 2020. We actually rented a screening room, a private screening room in Manhattan, and we had industry executives and people that we invited that were coming to see it. And this was in March of 2020. And in I think April, they announced. Well, we were going. I'm sorry, we were going to do it in April. We were going to actually have the screening in April. In March of that year, they actually just slowed everything down, and they said, "That's it. Can't do it. It's all over." So, so that put a crimp in that too. So now finally we're getting back, but and we got the recognition that we hoped we would get with this. But it's been tough on a lot of productions, a lot of actors. We're all in this together in terms of the way we have to go about doing business now. So it's unfortunate, but hopefully it will change in 2022. We're hoping. We can only hope.
Yeah.
What else do we have but hope, right? I mean, else do we have?
Yeah.
So that's it.
What do you have planned for the future? That's pretty much my last question.
Yeah, plan for the future is hopefully we can do at least a full season of Street Smart in 2022, and maybe we can do a third season in 2023, because I have at least 3 seasons right now. And I'll work in between on a hiatus as an actor for hire. I'm not just doing Street Smart. I'm an actor beyond Street Smart, and hopefully I'll have a lot more auditions, and I'll get a lot more work, and we'll see what happens. But right now we're focusing on Street Smart, and that's my main focus right now for 2022, and maybe beyond, and we'll see what happens. So,
well, congratulations on all your
Thank you.
Your accolades, and I appreciate you taking the time to come on with me, man. I really do.
No, thank you. Thanks for having me. And I hope these glitches weren't too disruptive, but thank you.
I'm gonna edit it up, and I'll get it out there, and I'll put all your links in the bottom. So
thank you.
Thank you, man. I really appreciate it.
Well, thank you.
And I'll have you on again, and I hope you have a Merry Christmas with your family.
You too. You too. And God bless what you're doing too. I appreciate it. Good for you.
Definitely. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Talk to
and
you soon.
Make sure you hit the like, subscribe, and notification bell so you can get my videos every time they drop.
Absolutely. You got it. Will do. Thanks, Bill.
All right, man. Thank you. Have a great day.